Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and today my very special guest is longtime friend, Dr. Tameka Hobbs. She is a professor at Florida Memorial University, and we are here on the campus of the Lions. Welcome, Tameka. Dr. Hobbs.
Thank you for having me.
So, for the viewers, tell them what you do. I mean, you do a lot of stuff. I knew you before you started doing all this stuff. So, you're just my sister friend, but tell the people what you do.
That sister friend is very important, but by day, I am Associate Provost for Academic Affairs here at Florida Memorial University, and I also have the privilege of serving as the founding director of our relatively new Social Justice Institute.
Which is super exciting.
Very exciting.
Yes. Well, tell them who you are, not what you do, but who is Tameka Hobbs?
I'm just a girl from Live Oak, Florida. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. My journey has been an interesting one. I will say, thinking about my girlhood in Live Oak, books have always been really important to me. Books and reading, family. I think about the values that I learned from my grandparents and all the people who poured into me in my village. And those have been the lessons that have shaped me and have sustained me over the years. So I think for many years, as young people do, right, as I'm coming into the world and everything looks big and grand on the larger scale, there was at a certain point in my time, a certain period of time that I was, not exactly proud to be where I'm from. But I will tell you, time has taught me that it was such a blessing for me to have that grounding and to be surrounded by the love that was a part of that experience.
Yeah.
But from Live Oak, I went to Tallahassee, and that's where we met. Was there for probably 13 years altogether. And I came to the city, of course, to be educated at Florida A&M University.
Yes.
And I'm a proud Rattler.
Yes.
That education and those connections have also been a formative part of launching everything that I've done since then. And most particular, it's where I found my love for Black history. Both in the classroom and working at what was just then the Black Archives on campus with Dr. Eaton and Ms. Dawson and the whole crew there. It was there that I declared that it was Black history that I wanted to do for my life. I have a doctorate with a focus on African American history in the 20th century. I'm a published historian. I'm a storyteller, oral historian. No matter what I do, and I'm doing administration now for the university, I still carry that with me. It's very much with me.
So you implement it in some kind of way. You try to weave it in.
Always.
Always. So tell us about the Social Justice Institute.
Sure. It's something for me. All of this really started back in 2012. 2012 was part of the first academic year that I was here at Florida Memorial University. But of course, as we all know, that was the year that February that Trayvon Martin was murdered. And it was really a difficult period for me to process that something like that was happening right now, because at the time I was actually working on the manuscript for my book, Democracy Abroad, Lynching at Home. And so I'm dealing with these issues, some 70 years prior. And then I'm also the mother of 2 young Black men. And I'm here on a campus, an HBCU campus, teaching, young men and young women. And so I was really wrestling with what I could do in my position to make it better. And so I began to organize here. We took students up to a protest in Sanford. when we came back, we found out that Sabrina Fulton is actually a graduate of Florida Memorial. We began working with her when she she and Tracy Martin founded the foundation. I helped to negotiate to get them on our campus. And since that time, as we've engaged with them, I've led student organizations that were concerned with social justice. My thought has always been, what's the next level? And it was during those years, 5 or 6 years ago, that I started planting the seeds, developing a white paper for some type of institute that would kind of take the energy and the mission that we see with the need with social justice issues, like what happened to Trayvon Martin, and pair it with the resources we have here on our campus. We have faculty who conduct research. We have students who are involved in research. What could we leverage? How could we leverage that in a way that made sense? And so, I've kind of been back and forth. We had different administrations, but when I came back in 2019 to the university, I shared that with the leadership. And of course, in the midst of everything that was happening last year, we were searching for what would be our unique response. Our response as an HBCU wouldn't look the same as a lot of other PWIs, predominantly white institutions. Right. But we decided at that time that the vision for the Institute, it was time for us to move forward. And so that's how we got started. And it's been, when you talk about a vision and cultivating something and having this little paper and taking it around for, 5 or 6 years, and you finally find your moment and you find your opening, I am so excited and driven to be a part of the change. I believe deeply in HBCUs. I love deeply Black people. I want us to have bright futures, and I believe that we have the ability to create them. And that's what I see as a part of this work.
Absolutely. Awesome. Wow. That's tremendous. That to see that actually come to fruition. So tell me about the focus of the Institute.
So we want to, at the base level, create conversations. We see ourselves as a solutions-focused think tank to bring together people from the community, people on our campus, our students especially, to begin to wrestle with these sticky questions that we're dealing with. We've identified 8 areas of focus that we think are germane to helping us to elevate, and that ranges from everything from economic justice. There's a focus on health justice as we are dealing with COVID-19. We know we'll continue to deal with that for many years to come. Educational justice, gun violence. The other area that's really important is systemic racism, because we have to understand this problem. And I will tell you, I've talked to many people, many Black people, many white people, and all colors in between, and they seem to think that just with love and understanding we can solve our problems, and that's not really the case. The disparities that we see that exist and that are persistent in our society are grounded in bad policy, and we have to begin to interrogate policy. We have to bring data to bear to prove our points, and in order to develop new policies and then be the engine. That's where civic engagement, which is another one of our areas of focus, comes into play, because you have to be able to leverage and advocate in order to see those new policies become law. And so that's really what I see as a part of the work.
Wow, that, again, tremendous. And, we've heard so much about social justice, especially in 2020 with the social unrest, racial unrest. We've heard a lot about equity and things of that nature. So, I'm glad that there's a deliberate effort, an intentional effort to change things and to put policies into place that are meaningful. That are meaningful. So you all announced your first advocate in residence last fall, which is Valencia V. Gunder. Tell me about that position and the purpose behind it.
Sure. Well, a lot of the work that I described, I imagine, is going to be outward facing. It'll sit in the community. It's also about building a bridge to the campus between the community. But a lot of this is going to be campus facing. And when I think about the other part of this that's going to make this change long lasting, it's the work that we do with our students. And so I've heard of, scholars in residence, artists in residence. We thought that it would be most appropriate to have an advocate in residence, a practitioner who's out there doing the work, getting their hands dirty, and making change possible. What if we could install them on our campus to, tell their story, to help train our students, and just to be an example, a living, breathing example of what a change agent looks like. And I can't tell you, Valencia Gunder was a natural choice. I've had the privilege of working with her over many years. We gave her a few years back our Susie Holly Humanitarian Award. She's come come to our aid and the aid of our students during the Hurricane Dorian relief effort through her organization, the Smile Trust. She's always visible. I always watch her, and I was just like, she is someone who is really making the change. So when this started to move forward and I was able to articulate this idea, I was like, I gotta ask. She's the first person that came to mind. And when she said yes, I was just thrilled. And I can't tell you, though, the energy, the focus, the passion that she's brought to this campus. She's an HBCU graduate, alumni of Florida A&M.
Yes.
And so she rides hard for her people. She rides hard for HBCUs. She's committed to having an engagement with every student on our campus. And it's just been tremendous. I mean, if I did one thing right, I did that. Bringing V here, bringing V to Florida Memorial was the right thing to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are your plans, I guess, for the Institute over the next year?
Yeah. Well, I'm still, we're building it. It was a skeletal idea. I'm putting flesh on it. We have an advisory board that has been tremendous. In addition to Valencia, I've been able to bring on a chief strategist in the form of Alexander Runlet. Really glad to have him as a co-collaborator. The administration has been tremendous and has helped facilitate a number of conversations with potential funders, potential partners. And so it's keeping me plenty busy because I have all of the associate provosting to do in addition to this. But it's really about planting the seed deeply, watering it, making sure we have the resources to make it grow, engaging our students creatively. So that's really what's occupying most of my time right now is to figure out that piece of it. But I see so much potential for our student body, for the university, for our community if we can get this right. If we can get this right.
Any thoughts around replicating this across other HBCU campuses?
Sure. I know that there are several other similar efforts that exist.
Okay.
I think that collaboration amongst these social justice institutes is something that I would welcome. I'm really trying to make sure that I'm focused on getting it right here. But I definitely can see down the road us being good partners, and I'd love the opportunity to be able to replicate what we have here at other places. But I got to get it right here first.
I understand, but it does sound like it would be a good best practice or a good model for folks to look towards. Okay, good deal. We're going to take a break right here. But when we come back, I want to hear more about what Dr. Hobbs has on the horizon. All right, stay tuned for more conversations.
Conversations with Nicole.
The number 10 means longevity. It means that you've been doing something that you love for a long time and that you're good at it.
What does the number 10 mean to me? 10, decade, new era, new beginning.
One of the first memories I have is learning my times tables. And the easiest times tables of all were the multiples of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It made math easy for an English major like myself.
The number 10 to me means victory. It means community, collaboration. It means wholeness.
The number 10 means to me, if you think of it in terms of 1 out of 10, 10 is top tier. So number 10 means you're the best.
Congratulations to Conversations with Nicole for 10 full seasons. That is amazing.
Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about Nicole. Let's talk about Nicole. Let's talk about Conversations with Nicole.
Welcome back to Conversations with Nicole. If you are just joining us, I am sitting here with Dr. Tameka Hobbs at Florida Memorial University. She is the assistant provost, and we have been talking about the Social Justice Institute, which she oversees here at the university. So, Dr. Hobbs, before the break, we were talking about the possibility of collaboration, but I know that the Institute also does a South Florida read.
Yes, it's the South Florida Social Justice Common Read.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Right. Well, it comes from a number of impulses. I talked to you about my lifelong love of reading. I'm an author myself. But the other thing that I've learned in some of the other anti-racist work that I've done is that if we ever are going to have the types of policy change that we want to have, right, you have to have this civic education piece. People have to understand the issues at a very deep level. How do you do that, though? I have found through my experiences that there's so many people of all stripes who do not understand, have a basic understanding of the struggles of African American people in this country. And if we don't have a common understanding of the longstanding issue, there's no way that we can move forward. And so that's what kind of has brought me into these conversations through my profession, and something that informs the programming that I hope to undertake for the Social Justice Institute. So in launching the South Florida Social Justice Common Read, we hope to create a common intellectual experience that will help people to understand more deeply the scope of the problem. We kicked off last December, and naturally, the first book that we picked was The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin, and we were able to have a conversation with Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. It was wonderful to be with them. I have wonderful partners in this work. Makiba Foster, who is the director of the African American Research Library and Cultural Center in Fort Lauderdale, as well as my longtime collaborator, Ronnie Bennett, who is the executive director of the South Florida People of Color, who do anti-racist DEI training and community-based training. And so we are getting ready for our next installment, which will take place on March the 27th. And the book that I've selected is White Rage, The Untold Story of America's Racial Divide, by another historian who I'm fangirl about, Dr. Carol Anderson out of Emory. And I made that decision. I was kind of on the fence about a number of books I was considering. But after the events of January the 6th and the insurrection that we all have seen, and I stood back and watched in horror as it played out at the U.S. Capitol, I said, this is the book for this moment. Because if you want to understand the insurrection that happened in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, you have to understand this really, really long history of violence, of white rage, of, as some scholars have named it, white lash, this white backlash that comes anytime that there is a perceived advancement by Black people or other marginalized groups. Folks who believe deeply in white supremacy, whether it is implicit or explicit, are deeply impacted by that ideology and react in ways that are violent and even deadly to Black life. And when I say violence too, I want to qualify that, as Dr. Anderson does, is that sometimes it does look like lynchings and racial violence and death and attacks on townships. We've seen that bloody history here in the state of Florida. Florida had the highest rate of lynching of any state in the United States. We had Rosewood, we had Ocoee that took place here. But the other type of violence that we see being enacted is policy violence. And we need to understand that policies that create opportunities for some and exclude others are also violent. They have terrible impacts, not only on individuals, but on generations of folks. And that kind of brings us back to the point I made earlier about understanding systemic racism and understanding that that policy is a part of how racism is expressed. And so I can't wait for that conversation. I think for a lot of people, it's going to give them some education, because we can trace this going back to emancipation and Reconstruction. When you have Black people with all this promise of being integrated into American society and the body politic, and then you have this wave of anti-Black violence that is going to undo all the promise that we see there. You fast forward to the second Reconstruction that we tried to have with the Civil Rights Movement. We made some progress, but we have also seen a second wave of policy violence that has come and really curtailed a lot of those advancements. And we're living through something similar in this moment. And I hope to be a part of a conversation to help educate people and give them some perspective.
Wow, that is powerful. Policy violence. Hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Wow. So shifting gears a bit, we are in the midst of Women's History Month. In January 2021, we saw the first African-American vice president be installed in the White House of the, first vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris, and Black women, women of color celebrated this great occasion. Who have you seen, in your work, Black women that are, doing great things, that are blazing trails in our current society?
Well, we have to brag on the vice president because when she was on the campaign trail, her first public visit was here on our campus at Florida Memorial.
Okay.
Of course, that was intentional as she's a HBCU graduate. We're the only HBCU campus in what was a battleground region and a battleground state. So it was really inspiring for myself and for our campus to have her here. But I think what happened with her and what I saw coming out of Georgia with the leadership and the activity of folks like Stacey Abrams, of Nsé Ufot, of Keisha Lance Bottoms, and the outstanding job she's done leading the city of Atlanta through a pandemic and helping to flip Georgia blue. For me, this moment is everybody else gets to see what I've seen all my life, and that is Black women get it done. And what I see for 2021 is that we are finally able to come forward and stand in our glory. We know what we're capable of. I know so many just fantastic Black women who are innovative, who are educated, who are dedicated, who bring their heart into their work. To go back to the quote that we go through with Anna Julia Cooper, we talk about Black women, when and where we enter, the entire race enters with us. And so to have Kamala Harris in the White House now, I think it portends fantastic things for all of us in this society. And I want that. And I think the other thing, too, that in addition to Kamala Harris this year, I bookended with all the Black women who have led the Black Lives Matter movement, starting with Opal Tomati, Alicia Garza, and Patrisse Cullors, and all the other women and all the other places that have been doing this work and what they've learned about pairing, their passion and their purpose with the need to take care of self. So I think that there's so much wisdom that we have learned. And that we see the fruit coming to bear right now. It just makes me really excited for this moment in our history.
And you are a phenomenal Black woman in your own right as well. So,
well, I'm just trying to represent for Cleo and Lucille and Clorty and all those women who made it possible. My mother, my father, all the folks who shaped me. I carry them with me in everything that I do.
Absolutely. Well, kudos to you. Now, speaking of you, you are a distinguished author and researcher, and I was just wondering, what of your works are you most proud of? What are some of your works that you're most proud of?
So, it's funny. I think in the dedication to one of my books, I've noted that my greatest body of work were my children. So I am incredibly proud of my sons, William Ashanti Hobbs IV and Brian and Mary Hobbs. I think that they are wonderful individuals. They are funny and witty and brilliant and creative. And, days that I struggle to figure out what I'm doing, I can look at them and know that I got something a little right in the middle of all the crazy. Other things, I have to say, as I've already pointed out, my work here at Florida Memorial and supporting this institution, the Social Justice Institute, is incredibly exciting. And I'm really, there's a lot of work to do, but the thing that I don't mind getting up to burn that oil for and that energy for is that effort. I think it has the essence of being able to help us solve so many problems. In other research, I am working on a collaborative project to tell the story of the Quincy Five. These were 5 gentlemen from Quincy, Florida, up in the Tallahassee region, who back in 1970 and 1971 were falsely accused of robbery and the murder of a deputy sheriff. Only one of them is remaining, Mr. Johnny Burns, but for him and all the others and their families, it was a egregious miscarriage of justice. It has a story to tell chronologically. For me, my previous book was on lynching in Florida, and we do go through a period of transition where there is a decline in lynching violence, but at the same time, we see an increase in what we call legal lynchings, and that the good old boys who still had their fingers on the wheels of the system are using that system to persecute and maintain the status quo and to keep Black folks under control. And so what you see in the 1970s in North Florida, in this case, between Leon County and Gaston County, is the same thing play out. So I'm really excited about being able to move this chronology forward. I'm really glad to be partnered with Dr. Tiffany Packer at Florida A&M. She's a research partner with this, as well as Kent Spriggs, who is still who was an attorney for these gentlemen, and the family members we've been in contact with. I'm really excited about bringing this forward. We actually have a filmmaker that we're working with, Dudley Alexis, who recently released the story of Arthur McDuffie in his documentary When Liberty Burns. He's very excited about the story of Quincy 5, and so it's a good mix of things happening. I'm excited to see what we can make of it.
That is super exciting. I can't wait to see when that comes out. So keep us posted.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, what's the best advice you've either given or received?
You know what? I laid off listed a number of mentors. I'd add to that Merle Dawson. I would also add to that Althemies Barnes of the Riley Center Museum. I was their first paid employee there. I like to brag back in the day, and I know she's recently retired. But I can remember her telling me, as this young woman who was trying to do so much, that if you chase 2 chickens, you only catch 1. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. What she told me was, if you chase 2 chickens, you won't catch either one of them. That was the correct way to phrase that.
Okay.
If you chase 2 chickens, you won't catch either one of them. Now, that's some good old country folk wisdom.
That is truly some country folk wisdom. Did you get it right away?
You know what? I will tell you the reason why it sticks with me is because I realize very often that I fall short. I chase a lot because, my passions, I have a number of passions and there's so much work to do. But that is some of the best advice I think that I have received, and I try to hang on to it. Even though if I don't live it all the time, I do try to hang on to it.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going to have to remember that one for sure. Okay. And then finally, what do you believe is Tameka Hobbs' greater work?
I just want to leave this place better than I found it, and whatever I touch and whatever I move forward. I find that the nature of the work that I do, I just am constantly taking on the next project, the next conversation, the next engagement. But every now and then I have a chance to look over my shoulder, and I actually am greatly pleased with what I see. And it is all about telling stories, empowering people, moving the work to the next level, enlightening folk, connecting people. I want to be a light, and I want to be a bridge.
Well, you are both. Thank you so much for your time today. I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you. I am so proud of you. Congratulations on your new network, and I can't wait to see what comes.
Okay.
Girlfriend.
And thank you all for joining us on Conversations with Nicole, where we are connecting the community through conversations. We'll see you next time.